Hello everybody, welcome back to the League's Catalyst RS3 daily relic reveals and teasers. We're finally here at day 10, there's only 4 more days left. Yesterday, of course, we saw a choice of 3 teleport relics, which will most likely be at the 3rd tier of the relic chart. Quick reminder of those in case you missed yesterday's video. Fairy's Flight teleports to all the fairy rings and spirit trees and all the farming patches, this was confirmed. Assassin's Insight, there was a lot more information about this one released in the video as well, so we'll go have a look at that in a sec. But that was another choice. A teleport to all the Slayer Masters, a teleport to a bunch of Slayer dungeons, and also a bunch of miscellaneous tellies directly to some monsters that maybe aren't in a dungeon. And then third and finally, the Voidwalker relic. Every single one of these normally craftable jewelries all in one with unlimited charges on a single item. For some reason, Jagex in their infinite wisdom have been posting videos on the side here on their Twitter and not putting them on the blog post here alongside the original relics or even in the FAQ page on the blog post. If we take a quick look, we scour through this, they talk about the Assassin's Insight one first. You can see every teleport that we do get. So you do actually get some dungeons here. On this video, of course, you'll see all of these are not grayed out, but when you do pick this up, it will be early, it will be tier 3, like a lot of people have been saying. It might be if you're a real sweat day 1 or 2 of the league. So obviously a lot of these tellies will be nice. You might not even have Slayer rings yet, but it is worth mentioning a lot of these will also have their own requirements to open these teleports up. You're not going to have access to every single one. For example, Gemstone Cavern normally unlocks when you do a certain level of the Karamja Diary, which itself also gives you the gloves to teleport you there. That'll be grayed out. Glacial Cave as well from Ritual the Magirite, you won't be able to get to that until you've done the quest that unlocks it. Then there's a fairy ring in there as well. Obviously God Wars you won't be able to do till you've done the troll quest that lets you actually walk up there. And then of course like Gothixian Ruins you won't be able to do because that's the World Wakes, and obviously when you complete that quest and unlock this dungeon you also get a ring that teleports you to the dungeon. A couple of nice ones, particularly Jadinko Lair. That is one that doesn't really have any tellies to it. You do have to like run from a glider across Karamja jungle to get to that. So that is a nice one. A lot of these not super useful, but some of them will be useful. And like you guys did mention, you will be getting these 3 teleport relics very early, so that does make a big difference. Some teleports to outdoor Slayer monsters real quick. They've added, it seems like, the elite Slayer monsters, so the Camel Warriors, the Ripper Demons and stuff, Aerits, all the different kinds of dinosaurs and Vile Blooms are all individual entries here, so there's a lot more teleports, it looks like, than there actually are. And then quick look at the others. We already saw the Fairy Mushroom one because it was just every single farming patch, but this video does indeed confirm that we'll have not only trees, fruit trees and bushes, but we will be able to go to the mushroom patches, the cactus patches, the hops patches, and also a couple of bonus ones here at the end, some miscellaneous, as you can see. The Ardy house with the Jade Vine in it, so you'll get an Ardy telly on this Fairy's Flight one, and straight to Draenor Manor and the Calquat patch in Tybwo. Finally, Abyssal Conduit, we already know all of these because it is just the jewelries that already exist, there's nothing new. A lot of these tellies, like I say, will probably be quite useful for just generally playing, doing quests and stuff, getting around to particular quest locations. So that's a little bit of an addendum to yesterday, a little bit more information, but I still think all 3 of these are pretty much equally as powerful. I don't think you'll miss out on anything or feel any FOMO if you do take any one of these 3 and you ignore the others. I think maybe the Slayer one is a little underpowered, but if you're planning to play the league by just smashing Slayer, then it's obviously going to be the choice for you. But today, we've got a brand new one, and it sounds like it might be based on combats. This might be one up against Ascension from a few days ago. This one's Specialist today. So what you get with this, in the trend of giving us existing alchemical jewelry but beefed up in relic form, we're getting the Elder Essence of Finality Amulet, which allows you to select any special attack from a menu without needing the weapon. Now, for those of you who don't know, the EOF in this game is the best in slot combat necklace for all styles. It's a Reaper necklace and an Amulet of Souls combined with even more damage, and the basic one in the game has a hefty 56 in all combat styles as well as 7 prayer. The main benefit of this necklace though, other than the fact it has all the passive effects from the necklaces that combine to make it, is that you can put any special attack weapon in the game inside this necklace, and it allows you to use a weapon's special attack while holding a different weapon, meaning you get the stats of the weapon in your hands. So you can use a special attack from like a really early game low level weapon like a dragon dagger or something silly, and you could use that spec with like a noxious scythe and benefit from the stats of the weapon. What this specialist one's going to do is it's going to give you a special unlimited Essence of Finality, which will allow you to pick any of the major weapons in the game that have special attacks from a menu, and as and when you want at a bank, you can change this spec, so you'll have the ultimate special attack necklace at all times. You won't need to make multiple for different styles, you just go bank and swap the spec you want. Every 15 seconds as well, this will allow you to do a spec that consumes no adrenaline. Even the really expensive ones, some of these cost 100% adren, you'll be able to fire one off, and that spec, and all your specs, not just the spec from this necklace, if you do actually have a weapon in your hands that has a special attack on it, will deal 50% more damage. One thing I will say about this that I hope is the case is that I'm hoping by your next special attack will consume no adren. This just means you can use this EOF at 0% adren. If you still need to have, say, 75% or 100% to use the spec, and then it just doesn't take it off you, that's a fair bit worse. Whereas if this literally just allows you to press the spec button if your adren's empty anyway, that would be a lot better. Because otherwise you're going to have to still manage having enough adrenaline to use a special attack compared to just being able to fire it off every 15 seconds when it's ready. Now this is a big one to talk about because there's so many special attack weapons in this game. It's going to benefit you more with damaging ones because it's going to make ones that do damage deal more damage. Specifically, we're looking at things like the Seren Godbow, the Easy K, maybe some Death Guard specs, things like that. And the only thing is you can't change this in combat. You do have to go to a bank. If you're like in the middle of a boss, you're not going to be able to juggle multiple of these to do like insane combos. Obviously, you could still, if you're an insane gamer, make a real Essence of Finality during the league and then get a crazy weapon and put it inside and still bring that as a switch. But that's kind of mad. But for this one, you're going to have to basically decide what spec you want to take to an encounter before you go there. So even if you're out of combat in the boss room between phases or between lives of the boss, you won't actually be able to change this unless you leave. But I think what's going to be really powerful about this relic specifically is the ability to swap and change for different scenarios. Yes, you will have to bank to change your spec, but you know, maybe you're going on a Slayer task and you really just can't be bothered to bring supplies or something. Maybe you can swap your spec to like the Saradomin Godsword spec or something. Yes, normally that's terrible. It's normally really expensive. It costs like 75 or 100% adren, but you're going to be able to do that every 15 seconds and it's going to be free. So you're going to be able to have unlimited supplies on Slayer task if you use this, if you spec all the time. For range, there aren't that many choices. Like I say, SGB, a nice big attack, works best on larger monsters. You can use the Eldritch Crossbow in this thing. It's normally quite a cheap spec anyway, but it's an annoying weapon to grind on an Iron Man. Even with drop rate multiplayers, you're going to have to do a load of Elite Dungeon 3 if you want to pick one of these up manually. Obviously, Darkbow, a famous spec, because you just pop it and it just does 2 big shots, so that's kind of nice. But I think this thing might change the meta on what special attacks are good. You are going to get more damage from the damaged ones, and every 15 seconds it will be free. But that does mean in between every 15 seconds, you're still going to be able to do specs with this thing, providing you have the adrenaline to do so. It's just going to mean you're going to get extra ones out every 15 seconds. So this will be really good if you can time this alongside maybe doing a Death Swiftness or a Sunshine, alongside the double basic attack adrenaline gain from before that we've seen. You'll be able to have more adren in the league, and you'll also be able to do some specs that cost no adren, so you'll be able to fire out more of them during your damage boosting ultimates. So very, very interesting. Melee options, like I say, there is the Statius Warhammer for lowering defense. Maybe if you're planning to do Rex Matriarchs, so if you're not a melee player and you're killing the one that you have to melee, and you don't have the best weapon in the world and you don't have the melee relic, maybe you put the Statius Warhammer in and use it against the green one, whatever it's called. You can make use of this one with melee to train your melee a little bit better if you don't take the melee relic. For example, you just want to get your attack and strength up for max cape or for quests or something. Obviously, this will be at tier 7, so I can't imagine most of your combat styles will be super low by then. But you know, you can get a spec like the Dragon Two-Hander Sword here, Power Stab, which does an attack in a 5x5 area around the player and does a big amount of damage. You could just start firing those out, get more attack and strength experience. Magic will be interesting. You can use things like the Gothic Staff or the Iban Staff, which do fairly big hits. You're not going to need the defense reduction of the Gothic Staff once again, unless, like I say, Mage isn't your best style and you don't have a 100% hit chance, but then it's kind of weird that you'd be using Mage. Again, unless you're at a boss that you can only specifically Mage. But this thing, obviously being a hybrid relic that doesn't focus on any one specific style, will allow you to assign yourself some powerful special attacks in these styles that you're not specialized in, and will allow you to train them a little bit faster as well. A really huge one with this relic will be the Staff of Light, actually, because you can activate this and you reduce all incoming melee damage by 50% for 1 minute. Normally kind of annoying to use because it'll cost your entire bar of 100% adrenaline, but you'll be able to use this and just take half damage if you're running around doing magic and stuff, so that'll be really, really good. A lot of these are just damaging specs, so we'll have to see which of these end up being the best in the league, because like I say in the base game, some of these are more or less useful because they have different adrenaline costs. You're just going to have to look through all of these for whatever style you pick and probably just put in the spec that gives you the biggest single target hit available. But also, speaking back to like we said the other day on the Ascension Relic, if they haven't touched the hit cap again, then maybe your special attack's doing 50% more damage. Maybe they're just going to hit 30k. Maybe they would have had the potential to hit like 40, 45k or something if it's a particularly big one and you've got massive combat stats from somewhere. Maybe you've done a big crit. But I'd really like some information about how the hit cap's going to work in League. Obviously, like I said before, 30k is still a large hit, but having all these things that are giving you these big like 50% damage bonuses, if you can only hit 30k with any one attack in the League, that might be a little bit annoying. But it might mean that you have to pick a different spec, you know, instead of picking like one that does one big hit, maybe instead I'll bring the Armadillo Battle Staff. Maybe that'll be better in the league because it does 5 mini hits instead, and that will obviously get around the hit cap of 30k per hit. So there could be some very interesting gameplay for this. Not massively useful potentially for Necro, but I mean, you'll still get an unlimited use Essence of Finality Amulet. You'll still be able to do a big damaging spec every 15 seconds at no cost. What I will say for this one though, it does say you will be able to use a spec every 15 seconds that will cost no adrenaline, but some of the special attacks in the game do have their own cooldown. Don't know how that interacts with the EOF normally. For example, this Death Guard special attack here, when you use it normally while playing, you get a 30-second debuff that doesn't allow you to cast it again, so you're basically going to miss out on a free spec every time you spec. But again, it is worth mentioning, you're still going to get a free EOF, which is still a combined Souls Amulet and Reaper Amulet with more stats, and it'll still make all your specs that you do 50% better. Should be kind of juicy for things like magic. You'll be able to do some massive hits with some of these, maybe play around with the Staff of Light spec, take less incoming damage. You're going to be able to use it to train melee if you don't pick melee by going with like the Dragon Two-Hander Sword spec. You'll also be able to use like Quick Smash, which normally costs 50% adren, so isn't worth using, but it's the Gmaul spec that gives you an instant additional attack, so that might be really nice in some niche scenarios. Maybe you need to hit a certain amount of damage within a certain amount of time. And you also have access to the Saradome and Godsword spec without having to make your own SGS. So that could be really good. Every 15 seconds this will be free. It will also hit more, which means it will give you more healing and prayer back. So you could have unlimited healing and prayer with melee. If you pick melee, you're already going to have unlimited healing because of the relic, but having prayer regen as well will be really juicy. Maybe the Annihilation. This gives you a buff where every melee attack you get 1% damage up to 20% for 30 seconds. If you use it again, it extends the timer. So if you put Annihilation in this EOF with melee, you'll basically, after a certain point, get a free 20% extra damage. But obviously that does come at the cost of not actually using a damaging spec in there instead. A lot of interesting choices. I'd like to see what the PVM experts come up with for this. I don't know how this compares to Ascension from the other day. Which one has more of the juice? Maybe if you know what you're doing, maybe you can get more out of Specialist at that very top level, deciding which out of all the spec weapons in the game you can just bring to every activity for all styles. It is tough to know, but this thing will be really, really good regardless. Like I say, if you know nothing about specs, just put any damage spec into this, then you're going to passively have a really good amulet with crazy stats. It's going to give you more soul split healing. It's going to give you more accuracy because of the Reaper necklace with all styles. So again, for your 3 off styles you're not picking a relic for, it's going to be really, really useful for those. But then obviously so is the God Book one, because that's going to give you 255 accuracy and strength every now and again, and do free damage in all your off styles as well. But I think this is actually a really interesting one and will almost certainly be up in tier 7 against the Ascension relic from before. Let me know if you guys can think of any excellent ideas to use this relic for, any special attacks that are perhaps underrated or might be a lot more powerful in the league considering they'll be free. But like I say, specifically ones I can think of that will be really good. Obviously free SGB specs and stuff for damage, but like for melee, you'll be able to do that SGS, you'll be able to keep the Annihilation buff on for more damage at all times, you'll be able to do AoE with the Dragon Two-Hander, and then if you're doing mage, you'll be able to pop that Staff of Light, and you'll take half melee damage for a minute whenever you do decide to use it. So if you're fighting a boss that melees you with magic, then you're going to be almost invincible. My only concern is for any of these special attacks specifically that do only a single hit, we might reach a point of power in the leagues where we're hitting that hit cap and they might not feel quite so good. So let me know what you think, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 11. The league's out a week tomorrow. I'm excited. I hope you guys are as well. Some of these juicy combat relics are really making the league feel like it's going to be a little bit more fun.